Facebook, it's Sarah McLeodry from Synergy Behavior Solutions in Portland, Oregon. I'm not sure if we're quite live yet, so we're gonna. Hi Facebook, it's Sarah McLeodry from Synergy Behavior Solutions here in Portland, Oregon. Thankfully the smoke has cleared and we have beautiful blue skies. We got some rain over the weekend, so the fires have gotten under control. So we're super happy about that. Today though, we're gonna talk about boundary training. And I've got my old girl Rizzo out here today with us, and she has, there's a saying of live your life like the gate has been left open, and that's Rizzo's view on life. If she can go, she's gonna go. It's something that we have always worked on, no matter where we've lived. She likes to go. So today we're going to work on some boundaries of not leaving the garage. Right now I'm not really working on it. I'm just trying to keep her entertained, because if I have the treat pouch on, it means training time. So I'm just going to toss some treats while I talk to you all about this. The first thing you want to think about when we're doing boundary training is, what is the physical boundary? You need something that is clear to the dog about that they shouldn't cross it. So you can't just have this mythical area. I had a client one time many years ago put up an invisible fence in the middle of their garden bed, and their older dog was actually taught to potty in the garden beds, and their younger dog they were trying to keep out of the garden beds, and that was a incredibly unfair mythical boundary that I didn't think was fair for many reasons. They also put an invisible fence. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother time that I don't agree with. So we need something that's a clear delineation that this is where the dog should stop. So the reason why I'm doing the garage today is it gives a really clear boundary. We have the cement to the asphalt. We also have the doorway. So there's actually a couple layers of boundaries. All of that I'm going to show you today totally relates to doing boundaries in the house. In the house, once again, you need to have a clear delineation of what the boundary is. If you don't, if you have a wonderful all-encompassing hardwood floors for your whole floor, I've actually done painter's tape on the floor to make a delineation. I've done mats, things like that. There's this funny thing. Rizzo is really gross when I train her. So she just goobered up my clean jeans with raw treat grossness on me, so that's why I'm wiping my leg. So back to boundaries. So yes, we need some clear delineation. So what we're going to do, and we also need safety in mind. So when I'm doing this today, because I'm in my garage and Rizzo could take off down my driveway, is I am going to go ahead and put a long line on her so that we can make sure that she doesn't go off down my driveway. I'm really lucky. I live in what's called a flag lot. So my house is actually behind another house. So there is no traffic in front of my garage to distract her in this training, but most people don't have that. So you're gonna need to set up safety mechanisms while you're in the training mode. The other thing that you need to make sure that you do when you're doing boundary training is not give your dog the ability to practice the wrong behavior when you're not training. So what that means is we have to keep our garage door closed at all times if we're not training or taking a car in and out. We actually have a policy in our house. If anybody leaves, we actually have a punishment policy, I have to say. A consequences policy, let's say that instead. That if you leave the garage door open, it is a $5 fine, because it is so risky for Rizzo to get out to the garage and take off. And I do not want that to happen and have something horrible happen to my wonderful, awesome dog here. All right, so let's get some training. I actually have 2 long lines attached to each other. Rizzo's like, about time. Free cookies are great, but training is even better in Rizzo's mind. So I have about 20 feet worth of long line here. And I'm going to gather it up so I can get to the end, so I can hang on to the end so that I have a secure thing, but I'm not really controlling what she's doing. And the first thing I'm going to do actually is work on approaching the boundary, and I'm just going to click and treat for both of us together, stopping at the boundary. And I'm going to reward behind us, so she's not even paying attention. So that time she got a foot past the boundary. I need to click quicker. Good. So that time she actually looked at, what am I clicking? Rizzo's a very clicker savvy dog. So she's going to try to figure out why I'm clicking really, really fast. Go. This is another good reason to have the long line, is to make sure that she can go get those treats without having to worry that she's going to go off into the garage too much. So I'm getting a little closer to this barrier here, boundary. And Rizzo's starting to stop, which is great. I think right now she thinks it has to do with stopping in relation to me. And that's going to be something we'll have to train for as we go forward with this process. Good girl. So I'm now across the boundary, and she's doing a really nice job of stopping. And I'm going to start making aware that I'm tossing the treats in all different directions. Oh, she missed that one. So that she comes at this boundary from different ways. Nice, good job, girlie. And so with a dog like Riz, who's very clicker savvy, she's picked this up really fast, but this is by no means a trained behavior in any way. This is our first session of this. This is exactly what we're doing here. And this is how I would do it if I was, obviously if I was training my own dog. I am training my own dog. So this is session 1 of can you stop? Good. So she's doing a really nice job of stopping. So I'm going to change some of the parameters for her. And I'm going to start walking forward with her. She's a little less on cue right now. We'll see if she stops. Oh, I had to stop there for half a second. I clicked it. She kept moving forward though. It's okay. So clearly my stationary body has become the cue right now for this behavior. That's no problem. We can start working on that. Good. So I added a little more step there. And you can see how important it is to toss the treat behind you, away from the boundary, to not encourage any forward motion. Yay. So that time, as she approached, I continued to walk backwards. Oh, bummer. All right, we'll try that again. She wasn't really paying too much attention. We'll see. Good. Go back to an easier step. Nice job. She's like, this is the best game ever. I run towards mom. I stop. I get a cookie. And that's exactly what I want her to think. So I'm going to change where I am in relation to her to change the picture up. And that's what I figured. I figured we would have a change in behavior. So we're going to start that again with me just one foot on the other side of the boundary. So even though she's doing amazing, you can see just a simple change of where I was in relation to the boundary. I know I have no head now. Made it so that she could not be successful. Rizzy. She lost her treat out in the back of the garage. And she's a dog that will not stop until she finds that treat. So once again, trying to catch that sooner rather than later. We're going to be just about done with this in about 2 seconds. She's having trouble tracking those treats. Bad click on my part, a little late. We all click a little late sometimes. There we go, good job. Nice. So with that type of stop, good. So what I'm looking for is that locked in stop. So what I'm going to do next time is if she does that nice stop. So it's hard for her if I start to move. So we know for sure movement is going to be a big part of this picture for her going forward. Awesome. All right, so that's the start of boundary training. I'm going to give Rizzo a toy to keep her occupied. Rizzy, Riz. While we talk a little bit more, and maybe I have some questions. Move that toy there. I'm going to come on up in case there's some questions. So, you could see how just simple changes in what we were doing with that boundary training made Rizzo not successful. And notice that when she wasn't successful, no big deal. I just gave her another chance. She doesn't know this. I was basically testing to see if me moving would make a difference. And I needed to figure out what her parameters were for the behavior. What was she thinking the behavior was? And definitely right now, I think she thinks the behavior is stop towards that line, but it's also in relation to me. So we're going to have to think about our 3Ds of training: distance, duration, distraction. So we're going to think about how far I am away from that barrier. So that's a distant component. Also distance on either side of her with the garage door. Distraction, there's a lot of distraction going on. So there can be distraction out on the other side of the boundary. There can be distraction towards moving towards it, distraction of me physically moving away, walking through that boundary. There's lots of layers of distraction that you can put, that you're going to need to train for and put in. You basically need to try to show your dog as many distractions as possible during this process to get them to start to understand whenever anything's going on, the boundary is still important. And that's the hardest thing, is to get that generalization kind of no matter what's going on. So you really need to get creative and do a little, I call it acting 101. And so pretend like you're greeting somebody, have somebody out there on a bike, have you running towards the door, all sorts of different things that could be it. You could also start working on, what if you drop food on the other side of the boundary? Does she come forward? That for sure would get Rizzo. That would be something I'd really have to work for. And so you really need to think about what are the rules of your boundary? Are they all the time, which they need to be? And if they're not all the time, what can you do to prevent the behavior from happening? So in my case, garage door down. And then you need to think about, how can I put in the 3Ds of training into the picture? So distance, duration, distraction. And there's lots of those when you come to boundary training, especially when your boundary is outside. Okay. I'm actually also working on this project for my driveway, for my skinny part of my driveway, for Lindy not to go down that. That one I'm actually going to be putting tape out on the ground to give there's partly a physical boundary, but there's not completely as clear a physical boundary as the door. So I definitely need to put a little something else there too. So if you have any questions about boundary training, any comments about what's worked for you, what's not worked for you, please go ahead and leave them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you, and we look forward to seeing you again on Thursday at noon Pacific time. And my other trainer, Lorena, will be going ahead and doing that one. Once again, I'm Sarah McLeodry from Synergy Behavior Solutions with my buddy Rizzo, coming to you from Portland, Oregon. Have a great day.